Okay, that was super impressive. James and I met at Yale at this, I don't know, like a total dork. It was like the Oscars for self-control psychology. So James was there and other luminaries. And I sat through all the talks. And afterwards, I said, I want to work with him. So that was, that's how I finagled my way into James's life. And I will say that when I heard about this general model, and in my head I had quite literally, I think, like hundreds of articles that I had read and a few that I had written on this topic of self-control, I thought, this is a model which is, like any other model, oversimplified, but actually the most useful model that I had seen for trying to understand the panoply of strategies that people use in everyday life and sometimes in our experiments to regulate their impulses. James alluded, I see the process model as actually not just a model of emotion regulation, but a model of behavioral generation, including not just emotion, but also our attention and our motor behaviors. I'm going to use the same framework of the world, the objective world, is perceived, that's P, valued in some process that is, of course, more complicated than we have time to talk about, and then that precipitates an action. And when I think about what self-control is, I think about this tension that we all face, whether in health, in financial security, or in education, between a loop that is enduringly rewarding, like studying for the SAT so that I can maybe get a better score, so that I can maybe get into a better college, so that maybe I can have a better life, versus Snapchat, which is none of those things, but sure feels good in the moment. And it is Harry Frankfurt at Princeton, the philosopher, who not only gave us On Bullshit, but also another work that I find even more compelling, and that is his work on free will. And he said that thinking about what it means to be free, it is only because a person has volitions of the second order that he is capable of enjoying and of lacking freedom of the will. And I would say, in the terms of the process model, this meta aspect of it, there is a first level loop. I'm feeling angry at my kids, I shouldn't feel angry at my kids, or I should study for the SAT, I kind of feel like seeing what Brooke has to say on Snapchat. It is the meta evaluation, the second order, looking down on your own first level emotions, behaviors, and so forth, that is actually, I think, as Frankfurt pointed out, like that is what it means to be controlled, and that is what it means in a very real way to be free. We did our best with the figures here. We just want to give you some sense that if you have something that you're trying not to do, then the thing about being a free person is that you want to suppress that, so that's the red arrow. And if there's something that's enduringly valued, and you do want to do it, even if it's not the most fun thing in the moment, then as a free person, as a self-controlled person, you want to upregulate that first level loop. Now, I want to just try in the next minute and 30 seconds to give you a sample of some of the strategies that we think might be categorized in this framework. For example, in terms of targeting the world, some things that we are all familiar with, like nudges, but maybe one that we're not as familiar with, which is Microsoft Word has a focus feature. This is a way of changing your objective desktop world in ways that help you do what you need to do, like finish your manuscript. So in Microsoft Word, you can actually turn off all the distractions that happen on your desktop, so you can't see your email and you can't see anything else. And this apparently comes from a conversation that Bill Gates had with Warren Buffett when each of them had to write down on a piece of paper the one word that defined their success as individuals, and they both wrote down, without each other's knowing, the word focus. Second, in the category of perception strategies, there are lots of things that we've read about, they've thought about, the marshmallow task, etc. In particular, I want to highlight that a recent episode for Sesame Street on which Walter Mischel consulted, Cookie Monster looks away from the cookies as his strategy for exercising self-control. And then he smells them, of course, and he turns back, but he turns away, and then that we think makes it at least, if not easy, easier. There are, of course, many, many valuation strategies, and in our very recent work, we're trying to categorize academic self-regulation strategies along with the help of Lauren Esquis-Winkler in the back. And one thing that's becoming very clear, even at this early stage, is many strategies work by changing the way kids think about their situation, not their objective reality or their perception. And I'll end with this slide, which is to say that, of course, others, including David Yeager, have more to say about growth mindset. But this idea that you can, for example, change valuation by changing the expectancies, the subjective probability that your effort is actually going to pay off, that's one of the main reasons. And actually, I cheated, but I'm the organizer. I'm going to leave you one last slide. Of course, there is this last family, but this slide is blank because in our view, just doing it, as Nike would say, or just don't do it, as Nancy Reagan might say about drugs and alcohol. Like, this is the last thing that you, so if you think about these strategies, we think they become progressively less artful and less efficient. So if you really want to change behavior, start with world. If you can't change world, go to perception. If you can't change perception, go to valuation. And if you really are out of luck, ask Nancy Reagan or Nike to exhort yourself to do the thing that is in your enduring best interest. Okay, thank you so much.